we are going to understand something about forecasting. Now, what is the meaning of forecasting? Now, when I talk upon forecasting, I'll forecast for something for the futural changes. Let's say today the weather is 30 degrees, the weather or the temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. Now, on the basis of today's weather, I'll think that tomorrow might be it will be around 28 to 30, because it seems to be there that today the tomorrow's weather could be dependent on today's weather. Or let's say today the stock price of a particular stock is 1000 rupees. So tomorrow it might go ahead, or it might stay at the same value which is there, or it might become low. So if I'm predicting for tomorrow, I'm thinking for tomorrow, then I could say that okay, tomorrow the stock price would be around 1200 rupees, if today it is 1000 rupees as such. So that's what I'm thinking, or I'm forecasting in a mind. Let's say in this particular month my company, let's say in this particular month my company has did a revenue of 1 crore. So obviously in the next month I'm thinking okay, they will at least do 1.5 crore now. So here when I'm thinking or predicting something in my future, but I'm predicting things on the basis on the recent value or the historic data which we have. So that's the purpose, or that's the part of something called as forecasting. Forecasting in general means predicting something for the futural values on the basis of an historic data. So we can also do forecasting in our Excel. Let's try to understand that what is forecasting in Excel and how we can forecast the data or forecast the elements or forecast the values with the help of Excel and those functions which we have. So when I talk about forecasting, as I said, while current data is useful for analyzing a company's success. Now, as I said, my company is performing 1 CR in this particular month. They have did a sales of 1 CR. So current data is useful for analyzing company's success. Which means my company was successful in terms of getting a targeted sales, which was given as a value of 1 CR. So you may wonder how it might perform in future. That say I'll think of as a person or as a business point of view. I'll think, okay, obviously this company is going to now perform well in the next month as well, because I want 1.5 CR to be achieved. Now they are able to achieve 1 CR, so obviously they would be possibly able to achieve 1.5 CR in the next month. So spreadsheet programs allow us to use the data to create forecast. So the data of the previous month or the past few months, if I use and then try to forecast for the next particular month, I would be able to forecast it. So forecast and trend lines. So it will also give me trends, which means the forecast was a positive forecast which was being there, or it was a negative forecast which has happened. So which means the future would be a positive change into my sales, into my revenue, or it will show a negative change for me. So it will show me trends as well as patterns, which means the forecast is repeating a pattern which was observed earlier, or is it following a new pattern as such. So understanding how to accomplish this task, which means how we can get this task done and predict something for future and provide company a valuable insight that yes, we might be able to achieve this target in the future months or in the future upcoming days. So that's when I will choose an approach of forecasting. If you can see in an image, in the first month the sales were low, in the next month the sales were a bit high, in the third month the sales were a bit low, and for the fourth month I'm trying to forecast. So what will be there for the fourth month? Now obviously for the fourth month I'll try to forecast on the basis of the past 3 months. So the past 3 months which we have, that's my historic data, and based on that historic data I'm trying to predict something for the future. So that's what I can see in terms of analysis over here. So let's try to understand that how this forecasting works in terms of Excel. So if I show you a data over here, as you can see on my screen, that there is a date and then there are sales value. So on 1st of October, now I have a data from 1st of October to 20th of October. So in 1st of October, the sales value is what? On 1st of October, we were able to achieve how many sales value? That is 59,401. On 2nd of October, we were able to achieve slightly greater. 3rd of October, slightly more greater, 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on. So here you can see we were able to achieve some values in the first 20 days of the October month. And these are the sales element which is there. So this is my one feature, this is my date component, and this is what? This is the sales value which is being generated. If I want to plot a graph on this, how the graph would look like. So if I go and if I do Control Shift down, you could see I can select the entire sheet. I can go in terms of graphs, I'll do insert, and in this, obviously, I'll try to insert a line. So on those 20 months, how the line or the trend of data looks like. Now you can see the data was somewhat high at some values, or at some days the sales were high, at some days the sales were low, at some days the sales were okay. So there was a huge rise, huge dip into my data, which was analysis. And this is a line plot which is there. As I have said, line plot helps me to understand how the data changes, how the value changes over a period of time. So as you can see, from 1st of October to 20th October, how the data value or the data elements have changed itself over a period of time. And this is how we can see it's not same everywhere. It's been changing as the values are changing. Now, this is how it looks, that this is how our data is being calculated. So this is just a basic trend observed on this data which I have. Now, what is another thing which I want to see and observe over here is what will be the forecast of the data, which means what I would try to forecast, or what will be the possible forecast for the next 20 days. But this next 20 days are not on the basis of October. You can see this 20 days are on the basis of what? On the basis of November for me. So I'm trying to see in first 20 days of October, I was able to achieve this sales. What will be the forecast of the next 20 days or the 20 days of my November month? So if I want to forecast over here, what is the value which I would like to forecast over here? So let's say we have a function which is known as forecast. So here you can see there are lots of functions which are given to us. There is forecast ETS, there are lots of things which are there. So here let's try to do forecast. This function is available for compatibility with Excel 2013 and earlier, calculates or predict a future value along with a linear trend by using what? Existing columns. We have this, but this is somewhat outdated in nature. So instead of this, we can use a forecast linear, which almost works similar over here. So calculates or predicts a future value along with a linear trend line. Now what's a linear trend? It will not show that the increasing and decreasing trend. It will just show that the changes were positive or negative. So that has been forecasted. Now let's try to plot it. So if I do Control Shift down and Control Shift right, this I have selected, and if I want to see that how does this plot looks like, I'll go in line chart and I'll try to plot it. Now you can see the plot which was there on the historic data. So as you can see, the plot which is there on this side, this is on the basis of historic data which we have. Now this plot is on the basis of the predicted data which we have. So there is no increasing and decreasing trend on a frequent basis observed over a period of time. Here we can see that it's a linear trend. What is a linear trend? Which states that the changes or the forecasted element are showing a positive change, or they are showing a negative value change, or the negative value being forecasted over here. So if you can see, it's in the increasing position, means going from a lower value to slightly higher value, which means it was a positive trend which was observed. And if I slightly go below, it is showing that it's a neutral trend if it is showing a straight line. And if it is showing in the reverse direction, that's in the negative direction, which means the trend observed or forecasted are in the negative direction. So here we can see the sales value which were there initially at that particular position. And I have not considered seasonality, data completion and aggregation as such. So I take it and you can see that this is what it's being predicted exponentially. Now let's try to see how does a plot looks for this. So what I'll try to do, I'll try to consider all of them. So control shift down and right, and what I'll do, I'll go in insert, and in this insert, now I have two values. Let me add a forecasting over here, a combo chart over here. As we know that we've seen a combo chart. What is a combo chart? Two particular numeric elements could be combinedly shown. If you want one bar and one line, you can show one area and one bar, or two lines to be shown frequently, it could be shown. So I go in custom chart. This is what it is seen. If I do forecasted sales, it should be in this. Forecasting is in the line format, and forecasted sales also needs to be in line format, and this is how it is being showing, which means it is showing a linear trend in both of them. But I don't want a linear trend to be observed over here, because if you see, both the values, both the lines are in the same part, which means both of them are showing a linear trend over here for us. So if I show you, this is the graph being calculated. I guess there is some mistake. So let's say if I want to plot a graph on this, I'll select this and I do a combo chart. So I'll try to insert, and in this I'll try to insert a combo chart, and this is how it looks. So instead of clustered column chart, I wanted a line, and okay. And you can see it is a line being plotted, but obviously both are showing a linear trend over here. And I don't want a linear trend over here happening. So I'll take this chart over here, and in my formula, obviously I'm going to make some changes. So what are the changes which I would like to make into my formula is this. Let's say the target value, I'll consider that this is the target value, and I make this changes. And you can see this is how it has been plotted. Now, one thing which to consider over here is the seasonality. Now, if I do seasonality as 0, what does this show? Which means it follows a linear trend. If I do seasonality as 1, which means a seasonal pattern is observed in this. So if you see, there is no such seasonality observed into my data, and the graph looks the same in terms of analysis, which means the forecast seems to be similar in terms of the linear trend, which we can see over here. So that's there. And here in the forecast ETS, there are many more options which we have, which we can change. So let's try to change this approach. So instead of using this ETS, what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to do seasonality. So it will understand the seasonality. So seasonality, what it will do? It will take the values. This is the value, and this is a timeline which is there. So I consider this, and it is trying to show me the seasonality. You can see the seasonality is what? The seasonality is 0, which means there is no seasonal changes happening. Now, what is the meaning of no seasonal changes happening? That means that there is no particular pattern that after 3 months the pattern is being repeated, after 2 months the pattern is being repeated, or after 10 months the pattern is being repeated. Here it's like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and there is no pattern repetition as such, and that's why you can see this error is encountered for us. So this is how we can see our analysis looks like. When we take ETS seasonality, it will show me that is the pattern seasonally repeating itself or not. But here if you see in this analysis, the pattern is not seasonally repeating, and that's why we can see this is a forecasted result which we have gathered. Now this was the forecasting functions which we see, and this were the certain graphs which were forecasted on the basis of this. Let's try to forecast something for this particular range of cells, but with the help of a data tab. Now in our data tab, you must be knowing data tab has lots of options related to data. So in this, they have something called as forecast as a group. Now what is the meaning of forecast? Forecast is predict something for the future outcome. So in this forecast, I have something called as forecast sheet. You can see it has forecasted the sheet on the basis of that data, but I'll not select this data in general for me. I'll select this data because I want to forecast on this data. So I'll do Control Shift down arrow key and right arrow key. So this is being selected. I'll go in forecast sheet, and in this you can see this is what it is being forecasted for the data elements which are happening after a frequent changes. So this is a forecast which is happening. So blue line is an actual data and the red line which is occurred is the forecasted data which has been forecasted. Now instead of line chart, I could also select what? A bar chart to be forecasted over here. Now what is this region? This is known as confidence interval. What is a confidence interval? How confident we are that forecasted value will change in those ranges. So we have by default 95% confidence, which means we are 95% confident that the values when it comes at forecast, it could be within that selected range of cells or selected region. That's a 95% confidence interval, which means it's not going to be that exact value. It can be somewhere between around and that particular range. So this is a confidence interval selected. Now if you see that it has forecasted from 21st to what? Till 25th. It has forecasted from 21st to 25th, which means for the next few days it has forecasted for us. So forecast ends. If I want to change that forecast ends on what? Let's say if I want to say that forecast ends on 26th. If I want to say that the forecast ends on 21st. So if I want to say that the forecast ends at the end of the month. So this is where I am changing the deadline of the forecast for me. Now option, I can say that forecast starts from 20. Let's say if I say forecast doesn't start from 20, it starts from any other particular way. Let's say it's selecting this 20. If I want from 19 the forecast starts, or from 18 the forecast starts, if I want to say that. So this is how the forecasted elements have been considered. So I can make those changes that this is where the forecasted value can change and can show the changes for us. Now if you see confidence interval is this, I can change the confidence interval, means how confident you are, I can change those elements. So here if I change till 90, this is how the confidence interval shrinks and increases. If I change it to 100, so 100 as a confidence interval ideally is not possible for us. Let's say I change it to 90. So this is how 90 looks like. This, let's say I change to 70. So this is what 70% confidence range looks like, and this is how it seems. Now if I want to say seasonality, which means there is a seasonal change into my data. So if it is changing after 3 months, 2 months, 4 months, a same pattern is being observed. So let's say if I give 4 months, the seasonal changes are happening. So here if you can see, it's not 4 months as such over here, it's 4 days. So after 4 days or 4 consecutive values, it will show me the seasonal pattern which is there. If I show that seasonality is 3 months, so this is after 3 days over here. Now if I want to say 6, if I write detect automatically, which means it will understand automatically what is the seasonality being observed in the past data, and it will predict for the future one. So this is there. Include forecast statistics, which means I want to include those statistics into my data. So if I want to include those statistics and values into my data, I do include forecast statistics. Now timeline range, value range, I've selected this is the data. Fill missing values with, let's say in my dataset there are missing values. So what it will do, it will interpolate. Now by default it should interpolate, so it will take the nearby ranges and interpolate the data with that particular value. And or else you can put it at 0, but 0 keeping the value as a forecast doesn't make any sense. So I'm taking it as interpolation. Or there is something called as duplicate values. So it will aggregate the duplicate values by certain ranges. Here I've considered it as average on the basic, and then I'll do enter. So when I have done this, you can see a new sheet is being created which will analyze, which will keep my forecasted data. Now you can see I started the forecast from 18th. So from 18, the value was 89,129. So what was the forecast? It was very similar to what we had actually. Now 19th, the actual value was 79,050. Now what was the forecast? It was 76, which means slightly less. If I talk upon 20th of October, what was the value? 99,000. And what has been forecasted over here? 82,959. And for 21, obviously I didn't had a data, but still it has forecasted me something on the basis of the historic data. So this is how forecasted looks like, and this is how we have calculated in the sheet what are the forecasted elements, what are the predicted values based on the historic data, and we were able to forecast the data elements and predict something for future on the basis of the past data. So this was all about forecasting, which we understood, and this was all about the forecasting which we studied, and this is how forecasting can happen in Excel. Now it's a very crucial step which comes into consideration by many financial analysts if they want to work with the forecasted data. It works on domains such as weather forecasting, price forecasting, sales forecasting, revenue forecasting, or stock prices forecasting into lots of domains and lots of studies. So that's how forecasting can be considered into Excel, and that's how forecasting takes place in Excel, and forecasting happens in terms of my Excel analysis. So this was all about forecasting in Excel, and this is how you forecast the data for the future purpose.
Like this video, subscribe to our channel and comment on the concept you want to learn next.